Hello everyone, in this video we want to talk more about the structure of the DNA. We stopped last time. The scientists they discovered it's a double helix structure. It's like a twisted ladder shape. I want you to look at the DNA. This is the DNA here, and how it's made up of phosphate, sugar, and this here is adenine. The other strand, if you look at the DNA, they are two strands, okay. The backbone of this strand here, which are made alternating sugar and phosphate group. The rungs of the ladder are made of pair of bases, as you see. Can you see here how they look like? Okay, each attached to the one of the sugars in the backbone, as you see them here. Okay. Also, I want you to look at this one here. This one represent look at this one. You remember we said the DNA with a protein which is called histone, how the DNA is wrapped on the DNA on the histone, okay? And these are together, this one the protein and this purple which is the DNA. Here both together they are making what they are making the chromatin, right? Okay, and this wrapping of DNA around the protein that helps to package this DNA inside our cells, inside the nucleus. Okay, if I want to take only the DNA without the DNA, which is deoxyribonucleic acid, which is you will cite it as a double helix, and this double helix they are actually, as you see, they are double strands and they are twisted. These are made up of this one here, which is called it's made up of a nucleotide. What is the nucleotide? The nucleotide is the sugar, phosphate, and the nitrogen base together, which is called what? The nucleotide. You remember when we talk the nucleic acid, they are made the building block of it, which is a nucleotide. So what is the nucleotide? A nucleotide, it's made up sugar, phosphate group, and the nitrogenous base. Okay, let's listen carefully to this.
Did you know that you have DNA in almost every cell in your body? DNA contains the instructions that allow body cells to function. DNA looks very different from other molecules that you might be familiar with. Click the labeled areas on the diagram to learn about the structure of DNA. DNA is coiled up around proteins inside the nucleus of each cell. If you uncoiled the DNA in one cell, it would measure 1.5 meters in length.
1.5 or 2 meters, okay? Look.
DNA has a double helix structure that looks like a twisted ladder. The sides of the ladder are made of alternating sugars and phosphates. The rungs of the ladder are made of pairs of bases.
So
the four bases in DNA are adenine, thymine, guanine, and cytosine.
You have to notice that the sides, they are the backbone, okay, of the DNA. And you have to know the double helix is known as what? Double helix. This is the structure of the DNA.
You can see here that each side of the DNA ladder has alternating sugars and phosphates. Each sugar is attached to a base. The bases are paired in the middle of the ladder. The base called guanine always pairs with cytosine. The base called adenine always pairs with thymine.
Okay, let's look at the nucleotide now.
DNA is made of subunits that are called nucleotides. Each nucleotide has one phosphate, one sugar, and one base.
Again, one sugar, one phosphate, and one base. This is one nucleotide, okay? I want you to look at this one here. It shows a base, sugar, and phosphate group make building block of DNA called, we said, a nucleotide. There are 4 different nucleotides because we have 4 different nitrogen base. Okay, you can see this one now. So the base in a nucleotide are paired or complementary. We will look about them later. How? Actually, adenine always pairs with thymine. These rules are very important. Adenine always pairs with what? Thymine. Cytosine always pairs with guanine. So the order of a nucleotide in the DNA is a code that carried information. What does that mean? Let's look at this one. You see this part. Can you see this part? This part is a part of the DNA. So backbone, which is what? Phosphate, sugar, and sugar is connected with what? Nitrogen base. This one cytosine here, right? C. C is always connected with what? With G. Okay? And here, as you see, this one here, the same thing. The backbone, B, S, and thymine. This is the first nucleotide. From the other side, thymine is connected with adenine. For the third one, P, S, and adenine is always connected with the thymine. So here, as you see, this arrangement and how they are connected together, always thymine with adenine, cytosine with the guanine, and you have to know from this one, you have to know this, the order of nucleotides in DNA is code that carries information. Yani these codes in the DNA, yani each segment of the DNA, if you remember, we said which a gene is a segment of DNA that relate to a certain trait. Yani if you take a segment of DNA, it's a gene, and this gene is responsible to what? For a certain trait. So the code in the nucleotide order has information about which proteins our cell should build. Yani for example, for this one, yani imagine this one is a segment of DNA. I took from this part to this part. It's a segment, so it's a gene, and this gene is responsible for a special trait, and this gene, it's a code for what? For special protein, for example, to make a special protein. So here this is for what? For the gene, the meaning of the gene. And so the code in the nucleotide order has information about which protein the cell should build. We will talk about how, but you have to know the code of this gene. And it gives the information how to build a specific protein. So the type of protein that your body makes help determine your trait. Okay, these points are very important. Let's look at this one here. Let's build our nucleotide, drag part of a nucleotide to build your own piece. You have to know, the first thing you have to know, this is the phosphate, for example, and you have the sugar here, and the sugar is connected here with what? With the nitrogen base. For example, the thymine. This one they needed. For example, the thymine, adenine. From the other side, the same thing. We need sugar and phosphate. Sorry for this. And adenine is always connected with adenine or with thymine? No, with thymine. Okay, so this one here is important. How to build a nucleotide. Look at this one.
A scientist determines that a molecule of DNA is 27% cytosine. What else does the scientist know about the DNA?
Cytosine.
Click the correct answer.
The amount of cytosine the same as the amount of what? Of guanine. If they mentioned it's 27, they said, so it's 27 guanine.
Good job. According to Chargaff's rules, the amount of cytosine must be the same as the amount of guanine in a DNA molecule.
So this is all about the structure of the DNA. If you have a question about this lesson and the structure of the DNA, you can send me your questions. Thank you for listening.